In most organizations, decisions are the biggest source of drag. You have so many decisions that are parking at your desk, and essentially each one is extra weight on your shoulders, and as you struggle to carry it, the entire organization senses it. Everyone has to move more slowly just because decisions are not being made, because they're blocked, because they're waiting. This video is not about those of you who maybe are making decisions without enough thinking. That's maybe a topic for a different video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like that. But it's about those of you who don't realize that when you're taking too long to decide, when you don't realize that things are even decisions waiting for you, you are actually limiting how fast your organization can move, because each one of those decisions escalates to you, and you being a blocker essentially are making things not move forward. It doesn't matter whether you're smart, you want to take the right decision, whatever reasoning you have, the result is you're making things too slow. That does not have to be the case for at least 80% of the decisions that end up coming at your desk. We can help you stop being the bottleneck, stop being so overwhelmed by having to make all of these decisions and suffering from cognitive load of having to make these decisions, and create an organization that's capable of moving more autonomously in a way that's beneficial to you, to the organization, and everyone around. By the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Aviv Ben-Yosef. I'm a tech executive coach and consultant, and I help people just like you create teams worth leading, because that's too short to lead a mediocre team. And this is one of those cases where you can very easily end up creating a mediocre team, even if the individuals are not mediocre, because you are limiting them. You're not enabling them to move faster, just because, again, you're the sole decision maker. It doesn't have to be that way. To make decisions move faster, we have to start at the beginning. Start with triage. That's the core skill we'll be covering here. And it's simple and most of the times also easy. You just have to stick to it. Triage starts with, first of all, realizing that you have a decision to make here. And this is the first part. Sometimes people tell me, yeah, whenever I get a decision, I make it. But when I ask a bit and look at what's happening and where their time is going and what people are complaining about when it comes to how their leaders are operating, I see that actually, yeah, maybe those decisions that, someone comes to you and says, here, I need a decision about that they do well, but they don't realize that there are other things that are essentially also decisions waiting for them, because they never took a second to understand what's happening. Like, okay, you're thinking, yes, I need to tell Mike what to do regarding that thing, but actually it's not just an update. It's not just, hey, we want to do this or that. This is a decision, and for some reason it has come to you, and you are now the blocker. So your triage starts with realizing what decisions are even waiting for you. So you understand everything that has come up to you and might be blocked just because you are now the decision maker. This is the core point here. We have to understand when the triage process starts, and then the speed, the efficacy of so many organizations doesn't come from necessarily making only the right decisions, because we're all going to be making mistakes, but about realizing when we have these decisions and moving forward, knowing when and how we can just plow forward, provide an answer, or provide a means to move forward and continue. So, first of all, you need to know when you have a decision at your desk. So, that first part is about realizing when people come to you, when you have questions, when you're marking things as unread repeatedly on Slack or in your inbox because you know you need to get to that. Usually those are decisions. And whenever you have a decision, you need to start the triage process, at least between you and yourself. How does that process start? Start by realizing, do you even need to make a decision? Not you. Is a decision actually necessary here? Sometimes we don't realize just because someone asked the question doesn't mean that we actually have to answer it. If someone said, what are our thoughts regarding whether we want to support this or that? Or do we think that in the future we'd rather have that technology or there, or that sort of person? Whatever thing that people just ask sometimes. And I see that some leaders, especially first-timers, mistake this as to mean that we have to answer. We have to have an answer for everything, but that's not the case. Sometimes you can look at something and in the triage, the first step is you're looking at it and you're saying, what actually would happen if I don't do anything? If we don't decide now? And you'd be surprised to realize that many times the answer is nothing bad. Like, this is just, okay, someone asked something. If they weren't asking that, if they hadn't done that, probably nothing would have changed. Probably we wouldn't have thought about that. And it doesn't seem to be risky. There's no big opportunity here. Just, an interesting thought. Doesn't mean that we have to pursue it. That's it. So if that's the case, drop it. Who cares? Life's too short to try to answer everything. So that's the first step. If you look at triage, it's sort of, my triage is very, very strict, and it's trying to be very much like a funnel. I'm trying to get rid of things. So the first step is looking at it saying, does anyone actually need to answer that thing? And if not, sayonara. Second, okay, maybe you look at it and you're like, yeah, we need to answer that. But do you have to provide the answer? Just because an answer is needed doesn't mean, and people came to you, doesn't mean that you're still the one that needs to answer it. Look at it and consider, given my organization, given the context of the question, given what I would like my organization to be like, who in an ideal world would supply that answer? Sometimes it might be someone outside your organization, because maybe someone came to you, but actually it's a question that product, marketing, the CEO ought to answer. That's fine. You don't have to provide an answer for them, and you don't have to be the relay. You can just redirect them to the right address. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes it's someone else in your organization. Just because it was escalated to you doesn't mean that you have to answer. Do you have people who are senior enough in your organization that can make the decision? Maybe you need to help them or see what they need to make that decision. We'll touch that in a minute. But first of all, understand whether you're the one that's ought to answer. And if not, assign it to them. That's a core part in creating an organization that doesn't have everything channeled to you, that doesn't have everything try to flow through you, but that slowly becomes a more autonomous organization where those decisions that don't need to get to you don't get to you. All right? At the beginning, we're doing this, shifting things. It comes to you and you're redirecting it where it ought to go. But hopefully, very quickly, you will not have to be this, traffic policeman trying to tell people to go here or there, but you will create an organization where most things just end up at the right address because people have learned how to work. That's a very important part of the triage. Then, okay, fine, you've got a decision in front of you, it needs an answer, you need to be the one answering it, but my friend, you have to answer it right now. Again, just because someone came up with the question doesn't mean that it's urgent and merits an answer in this moment. And sometimes actually, given how the industry operates, not answering, waiting longer is good. This is the part that's maybe not simple, where you need to look at things and think, okay, is this one of those cases where if we wait, we're actually going to pay a bigger price because we're waiting, or we're actually, right now, making a decision doesn't matter so much. We just might, if we wait, have even more information down the line and have a higher chance of making the right call and not a lot of risk or cost for waiting. If that's the case, wait, okay? You don't have to rush to provide an answer. The key here, when you have that sort of scenario, is not to tell yourself, okay, I'll get back to it later. And you mark it as unread and it keeps popping up day in, day out. No, we treat triage very seriously. If something came in and we decided, this is a decision, by the way, you make a decision about the decision. Sorry if it's all too meta. If you decided that this doesn't merit an answer right now, you have to say when you will review this so it doesn't get lost, so you can have your brain take it out. Otherwise, it's going to keep looping. You're going to have that cognitive load that never gets easier. So what you do is you look at it and you say, yeah, I think that this might be something that we will be better equipped to answer after the summer, in 2 months, Q3, whatever. When that's the case, you file it somewhere, like where you file, I'm assuming, most of your tasks, have a proper due date on it, and then you and your brain, which is very important, will know you can let it go and it will not get lost. You won't miss it. It will pop up like all the rest of the things that you're actually doing because you have a proper task for it. And then when it finally is the time, which is the last part of triage, you're in front of a decision. It's, your decision. It needs to be answered right now. Make the decision. That's not, I'm sorry, I don't have a magic answer here about this part, but the thing is, when you're in front of something like that and you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, this actually merits a decision, you need to make the decision. We'll talk in a second about better decision making, but this is a crucial part. When things need an answer, you cannot keep blocking it. You just need to answer. A few things. First of all, when you have other people in the company answer, especially people reporting to you, at the beginning you might need to be still in charge of it. Okay, the decision is not yours, but you have the task, you have the reminder, the things won't get lost. That's how it often is at the beginning, but I recommend making it clear to people that if it's their decision, it's assigned to them, they're in charge of it. They have ownership over that decision, and they need to make sure that things don't get lost. Just as I assume they take seriously tasks, okay? Even though a decision is not a deliverable task like code, features, whatever, it's still something that they are responsible for, they have ownership, and they're in charge of making it through the deadline, before the deadline, hopefully. Second, when we're looking at how you handle these things, sometimes people just, reach for the easiest solution. So people come to you with a question, that it's very easy for you to make the right decision, what the answer ought to be. If it's not your decision to make, in the long term, the right thing to do, the healthiest solution for the team is to ensure that you're still redirecting them to the right address. So don't default for the easy short-term solution. Do the right thing for the organization. Ensure that you're not still that centralized decision maker. When possible, give it to other people. The next step is to ensure that you're making a decision in a way where you feel you've been responsible. You've done your due diligence. So when you have a decision in front of you, if it's an easy one, whatever, just go with it. You don't need to tell you what to do. But when you notice that you're getting stuck on something, usually what it means is that we need to be a bit more systematic. Look at the thing, decide what are the different risks, how grave of a risk is it? If it actually happens, what happens? Is the company going to go bankrupt, or are you just going to waste a day of a bit of a headache and just redo something? Is it just going to cost you $1,000, or is it, oh my God, we need to purchase a whole set of hosts, and that's going to be several $1 million more that we didn't expect? There's a big difference here. When you have that, you always need to consider the different trade-offs, what, if any, you need to do as a preventive measure to reduce the risk of something happening or reduce the impact of the risk if it actually happens, and understand what are your contingencies. If the thing actually happens, what will you be able to do? Because again, if we can just spend a day and fix it, okay, worst case scenario, we wasted a day. If we're talking about something that might end up in a big fiasco, maybe you need to incorporate another person into the decision making. Find a better solution. Decide about spending more money to reduce the risk. But having this proper risk management is very crucial to be able to make decisions faster, because a lot of the times getting stuck on a decision is because we feel like there's a risk here and we never take a second to formalize what we're seeing and what would actually happen. This exercise of thinking about what actually are the bad things that could happen is very useful to very quickly paint a picture about the different scenarios that are possible and seeing whether we're facing something that's seriously a problem or could be a problem, or just the regular rumination that some people have, that we're looking at things and imagining a very bad outcome, even though that outcome might not really be all that serious. And one last tip, triage on contact. When something pops up, when something appears, people put it on your desk, don't let it pile up. Don't let the decisions, hide you. When people enter your room, they don't see you because they see the pile of decisions in front of you. Instead, try to handle things as fast as possible. It's a bit like inbox zero. You want to have decision zero. So when something comes to you, you very quickly do the triage and see, does this even merit an answer? Does it have to be me, etc.? And very quickly, whether it's something that actually you have to answer this week, as opposed to something that no one needs to. Or you can ask Mike to do it. Or you can just delay it 2 quarters into the future and then review whether it's still relevant and actually merits an answer. This really helps. And all of these little approaches, the triage and how you treat things and how you delegate properly and the risk management, all these boil down to you being able to make decisions faster and hopefully making a lot less decisions, because it's not like you ought to be an amazing algorithm that everything's routed to you and you provide the best answer. In most cases, we have to be, to be frank here, you're not dealing with life or death decisions. Most of the decisions are decisions that even if you took 2 weeks to decide on them, you're not likely to make a much better decision. You're not likely to remove 80% of the mistakes that you're going to make, because a lot of the mistakes are about things that we just didn't know, couldn't know. It wouldn't have made sense to try to answer them. So it's about reducing the time where the team is in limbo, allowing the team to move faster, learn faster, allowing others in the organization have the ownership to make different decisions by themselves. So you as a leader can focus on the higher impact, higher value things that you can do. The team has more autonomy, the team can move faster, and that's how we create an organization that actually keeps moving faster and faster as it grows, as opposed to just becoming slower with more processes and more politics going on. We don't have to have all of that. We can just start moving faster. Just growing an organization doesn't mean growing in bureaucracy, as long as we know how to act fast. When we see something, we triage on contact and get moving. That's it. If you have any questions or comments, I'm always happy to hear, and you can let me know. My email is in the video description or in the comments. If you want help creating an amazing organization, reach out to me in my email. I'll be very happy to schedule a free diagnostic call. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It really helps, and I'll see you here in the next video.